Hello everyone, my name is Aiman Maulana from Unported, and today I am taking the Smart Hashtag 1 out for a drive. But it's no ordinary Smart Hashtag 1, in fact it is the Smart Hashtag 1 BRABUS, which is the top-of-the-line model on top of the Pro and Premium variants. Now, just to give you a clearer idea, bigger context out of this is not my first EV, although it is the first EV we're doing on the website, but this is the first smart car that I'm driving ever. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive right into it. Whee! The Smart Hashtag 1 is a compact crossover SUV. It is also a full EV, so there's no petrol combustion engine right here. And when you look at it, a lot of people tend to think of it as the size of a Pro-Duo Ativa, but in truth, this car is actually noticeably bigger. It is noticeably longer, it is a little bit wider, and I believe it is about 1mm difference with Ativa. I can't remember which one's like taller or which one's shorter, but at least height-wise, it's about the same. Like even though there's a 1mm difference, because honestly speaking, if you have a 1mm height difference over someone else, you don't have a height advantage. What you have are issues. The wheelbase is also noticeably longer, so obviously that will contribute to a much more comfortable driving experience. And even if you were to compare it to the larger Proton X50, which is another popular SUV in Malaysia, this is still bigger. Now, I'm hoping I do remember to put in the dimensions on video, but yeah, this should give you a clearer idea as to how much more space, how much bigger this car is. It's not like an unusually large difference, but at least with the Ativa, even though it looks like it should be the same size on picture, it's not. I mean, as it is, the Ativa is more of an A segment like compact SUV, whereas this is more of a B segment one. And it's a relatively large B segment, mind you. Now, this car was made as a collaborative effort between technically two companies, but there are three companies involved in this, at least in Malaysia. So there's Mercedes and Geely. So Mercedes is the one that designs this car. Geely manufactures it. And then there's Proton, who is helping to sell this car under Pronet. To me, I do like how this car looks, like even without the whole BRABUS gear going on. It does look pretty classy. It kind of reminds me of Mini Cooper in some ways, but a more futuristic version of it. But the Mini Cooper styling, at least for me, is like in the rear. Like if you could compare this with this Smart Hashtag 3, that one has that sloping thing in the back, whereas this one has something that looks kind of like a baseball cap in the rear. Now keep in mind on the front, where the grills are exactly, you might be thinking it's for airflow, you know, just to keep the engine cool. But keep in mind this is an EV, so you don't actually need that. If anything, it's just part of the smart design language, and it does add some level of elegance and class to the overall look. I'd like to take the time to talk about the drive mode for a bit. So you have 4 of them, as opposed to 3 in the other 2. So you have Eco, Comfort, Sport, and BRABUS. So normally Sport is the fastest available mode. That's where the acceleration ramps up more, like sharper response more than usual. But the BRABUS takes that to a whole other level. And it's a notable difference with the other variants, because supposedly this car can go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in about 3.9 seconds, which is really, really fast. Now personally, I'm a huge fan of the interior. It certainly has a certain sense of elegance to it. It's clearly upmarket, that's for sure. Like you have a bunch of like suede materials and, you know, soft and hard touch plastics around, with the steering wheel itself being Alcantara. It's definitely not something you would see in your everyday car. It is as premium as it can get. And obviously, because it is the BRABUS line, you do have a lot of the BRABUS branding all over. But of course, there is one B letter here that you should not be confused with the BRABUS branding, which is on the speakers itself, because this is actually by Beats. And yes, this is the same Beats company that made those Dr. Dre headphones that you hear last time. Now, in case you're wondering which part is hard, which part is soft, that sounds wrong, but yes, which one is it? So yeah, this is soft plastics, this over here is soft, the center one is hard, this is obviously hard, you can tell. On the front here is soft. Yeah, this is still quite hard. Yeah, you can actually easily tell at that point. Clearly the first thing that will catch your eye the moment you step in here will be the large infotainment system here, which is 12.8 inches. roughly about the size of an iPad Pro, which is really huge. The best thing for me is that it does support wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but if you don't want to use that, you don't want to connect your phone directly to it, it does have about 5 gigs of mobile data. I believe it's refreshed every month, and it has its own suite of apps basically. Now the good thing here is that it has been localized for our market, so a lot of the details that you can find here will have no issues with the Malaysian roads. So for instance, right, if you use the built-in navigation app, it will actually have a full list of not just places that you want to go in Malaysia, but it also have a list of all the EV charging stations that you can stop to along the way. And I think this is a nice touch. When you actually pick your destination, it will tell you an estimate of how much battery life your car will have left when you reach there. So you can actually plan your journey ahead without any stress. It's pretty cool. Personally, for me, I'll probably stick to Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, because it's just more convenient for me to connect my phone directly to it. And because I'm used to it, it's easier for me to understand where it wants to take me. But I'd say it's not that the navigation app was designed badly, it's just a matter of getting used to. Because I know last time I had issues with like going from Google Maps to Waze, etc, etc. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting used to it. Once you're used to it, I'm pretty sure you have no trouble using the app itself. Now below the infotainment system, we have two pill-shaped air conditioners. The fans will blow to your face. You have 4 of them obviously, so we have 2 in the center here, one over on the passenger seat, another one for the driver's seat. Now this of course differs from the Smart #3, whereas the center here has 3 circular aircon vents. This one we have the pill-shaped ones. And then below that is what I would say is storage area of sorts, but this is where you want to keep your smartphone in, because you have the wireless charging dock here, and you also have 2 USB-C ports, a 120 watt power port over here. Now moving even further down from that, you have 2 slots to actually put in your bottles or your drink cans, like what I have right here right now, and also a small slot for you to put in your payment cards, or if you have like a small wallet, that works too, because I have a really small wallet, MagSafe wallet. Yeah, it can just fit in just fine. And whenever it's not in use, or if you just have your cards in there, you want to keep it like secret, you can just close it again. It's a pretty nice touch. And then the last one further down is another storage compartment, but this one differs from the others because not only do you have much more space inside here, there's also an air vent way down here, because it's supposed to be like a cooler box of sorts. So if you have like bottles, like any drinks or anything will keep cool, you can put it inside here. But just don't put an open can inside it, because highly likely it will spill as you drive. There's nothing to hold on to it. As opposed to the cup holder over here, it does hold on to it very well, so you could drive, unless you're driving really, really absurdly fast, it will hold just fine. Now this isn't the only screen that you get in this car, because you do have a 9.2-inch meter cluster over here, and to add to that, there's also a 10-inch HUD heads-up display, and that's pretty convenient for you to know at what speeds you're driving and what modes you're on. Because sure, you do have the meter cluster here, which is full colored, and it does give you more information, but it's not exactly intuitive when you're driving and you want to look down. It feels a little bit dangerous, for me honest. So it's a good thing that they do have the heads-up display there, and it's a decent size and brightness that you wouldn't have an issue at night. But in cases where you might have visibility issues, maybe you're from a different country where it actually snows, it does have a snow mode for the heads-up display, which will change the color accordingly, so you get better vision of it. So don't worry about it, it's actually displayed pretty fine. Now apart from the steering wheel being Alcantara, the steering wheel does have a lot of buttons on it, which may seem a bit overwhelming at first, but once you go through it, it's actually pretty easy to understand. So on the right side, it's pretty much just multimedia controls. You have your previous and next track, you have your volume adjustments, you can go through voice recognition, you can go through mute and unmute the audio, you can check your trip from there, and that's pretty much it. And on the left side, it's purely for your driving experience. So from here, you can go through some of the things that can help your drive better. So you have the Smart Pilot Assist, you have Adaptive Cruise Control, Speed Limiter, you can disable, you can enable it, there's even Park Assist over here. So yeah, it's pretty much just purely for driving on the left side. So in case you're wondering, it's easy to pretty much separate that, and I think Smart did a great job in dividing that accordingly. Now, because this was my first smart car, I kind of panicked a little bit when I could not figure out how do I start driving this car, because you don't have like a gear lever or anything here. Instead, when you want to move from like parking to reverse to neutral to drive, it's on this thing over here. So signal and also your wiper, all of it has been combined towards the left over here, but on the right, that's where you want to go if you want to change gears. So you press to go into park, you go up if you want to reverse, and then you go down if you want to drive, which again, obviously you have to hold brake first, otherwise it will not engage. It's a safety measure after all. Now the seats themselves, you do have electronic adjustments, so you don't have to manually pull yourself forward or backwards. All you have to do is just like press to the level that you want. And I can say for sure, I am surprised when I actually drove this car, because I didn't think something that at least seemed kind of small on the outside, well, it is compact after all, but even before I actually bring the seats all the way to the back, I could already stretch my leg outwards like this. Like, there is so much space down here, I am just surprised at this point.
It is worth noting, with the driver's seat position being at where I've placed it right now, there's not really much space in the rear, so you ideally wouldn't want two tall people to be sitting front and back. You could always adjust the driver's seat a little bit forward, but yeah, just to keep that in mind.
This is just this is the amount of luxury I've never experienced in a car of this size ever in my life, and I absolutely love it. Granted, if you are on the shorter side, not trying to make fun of you, this car has more than enough space. Pretty sure you're gonna have to move it to the front about a lot more. But if you ever wanted to feel a lot of space down here, I think so far this is the best I've ever driven. Now, in case you're wondering, if you feel like maybe you're pushing the car seat all the way to the back and the steering was a bit too far, now don't worry about it. You can adjust your steering wheel, no issues. Up and down, forward and backwards, easy peasy. Oh, one thing I'd like to make note of, the interior. While I did say that I do enjoy the interior, I feel like it really comes to life at night, because there's a lot of ambient lighting that you might not really notice it being there during the daytime because it's bright, especially in Malaysia. But when it's nighttime, it's hard for you to not see it, because, well, to put it simply, it reminds me of your typical gamer aesthetics in a room, which I do actually like, by the way. You have like lights that you can choose, by the way, you can customize it using the infotainment display. And you can go with whatever colors you want, and you get to see it across. And it's not just a single color either, you can actually go for like 2 different tones to it, just for added customizations, just to really fit in people's tastes. And I really love it. This car just looks much nicer to drive, well, from the inside at night. Technically from the outside too, because there is like lighting that you can see in the outside. But yeah, I just thought it's worth pointing out that I really love how this car looks like when you're driving in the dark. So good. So, here comes the ultimate question. How does it feel like to drive the smart #1 BRABUS? Now, if I were to summarize everything as short as possible, I'd say it's a very smooth, clean, powerful drive. But to actually expand on it, I think out of all the cars I've driven so far, this is by far the smoothest. Like, you never have any issues when you're starting off like from zero, and whenever you're moving, acceleration just feels smooth. You don't really have any issues with discomfort while you're driving. Everything feels planted. It's an overall great car to drive. If at any point it seems like when I'm driving it doesn't seem smooth, I'd say this is skill issue on my end. This is what us gamers call skill issue, because right now I'm driving with the E-pedal mode enabled. So in case you're not aware, so the E-pedal means you're only driving with a single pedal. That means you're using the accelerator to accelerate and decelerate. So you press down to accelerate and then you let go for the car to slow down. This is the better way to drive because it makes the car more energy efficient. So you should be able to go further distance-wise on a full charge. But yeah, the idea here that you have to you brake by letting go of the pedal is still foreign to me. I'm not used to it yet because I don't own an EV. Yeah, it takes a while to get used to, and since I don't get to use this car for too long, unfortunately I'm not quite there yet as far as masterfully using it. Because it doesn't help that whenever I'm coming like close to a car, when I'm coming to a stop, I panic a little bit hoping that the car would be able to stop in time. But keep in mind, and the car will remind you of this, you still can use the brake pedal in case of emergencies. So if, let's just say, you really think that the car cannot stop in time, yeah, just go ahead and use the brake pedal, it's fine. But for the most part, yes, you're using the accelerator to go and slow down and pretty much come to a full stop. I mean, credit where credit is due, this car does have a full suite of security features, security and safety features, so you don't really have to worry about it too much. It will tell you when you're going too close to a car or some other object, so don't have to worry too much about it. There's lane assist, there's lane keep control, lane departure warning obviously. It's really hard for you to really screw up driving unless you're intentionally driving like a maniac. But for as long as you're paying most of your attention on the road, yeah, you'll be fine. But of course, that doesn't help you feel more confident with the e-pedal when driving, because if you're just not used to it, it takes time. But once you're used to it, I'm sure it gets a lot more comfortable to drive. Because I'm starting to get a hang of it, it's just not smooth. And now at least whenever there's a car that's coming close, I don't panic anymore. I think overall driving this car has been great. I mean, you have everything that you could ever want in this car. It definitely covers all your needs, but even the wants, yeah. You have pretty much everything that you probably need in a car, like right here and more, in luxurious form. The speakers sound amazing, the bass, the clarity, everything, it's beautiful. But that isn't to say that I have nothing to complain about with the car. Now, with the X90, there is an auto park feature, and it is available here. But I could not for the life of me get it to work properly, because it seems to want to go into spaces that it shouldn't. And a lot of times I just had to force cancel it. I've even had a full row of parking bays completely empty and tried to auto park it, and it just didn't work. Charging speeds in this car, and as well as the premium, is on the faster side. It goes from like, I believe 20% to 80%. It takes about 5 hours through AC charging, and with DC charging is about 30 minutes. Now, as far as battery is concerned, this does pack a pretty large 66 kilowatt hour battery. The same goes for the premium variant as well, but the Pro gets a smaller, I believe it's a 49 kilowatt hour battery. Now, in case you're wondering about charging, this does support up to 22 kilowatts for AC charging and up to 150 kilowatts of DC charging. So, to put it into perspective, if you were to use an AC charger, it will take about 5 hours to go from 10% to 80%. And if you use the DC charger with up to the full 150 kilowatts basically, you could actually get from 10% to 80% in about 30 minutes, which is insanely fast if I do say so myself. Now, personally for me, if you're too concerned about maximizing the range, you're better off going for the premium variant for this car, because on a full charge, this car can go up to 400 kilometers, whereas the premium can go up to 440. After all, this is tuned better for performance. The Pro will be even lesser because, again, smaller battery capacity, so that's only to be expected. Now, another reason why I say that you might want to consider the other two variants is because of the price. Because clearly this isn't a cheap car by any means. The Smart #1 BRABUS is going for about 249,000, and you didn't see any price cuts for this one. Whereas the premium is going for 209,000, whereas previously it was 219,000, and the Pro variant is going for about 169,000. Now, I think that'll be all from me for this video. For now, I'm just gonna enjoy the ride while I can, and yeah, do stay tuned for the full in-depth review on Unported.net, and I'll see you guys again in the next video. Bye bye!